Hey everybody, just want to introduce myself. My name is Mary. I live in Ohio. I am a mom to a 10-year-old boy. You often maybe hear me refer to him as a PG child. PG just stands for profoundly gifted. He's got an IQ in the top 0.04% of the population. He is currently in the 5th grade. He attends a local private school. We've switched him around a couple times, trying to find a fit, and he ended up back actually at the school he started at in preschool this past year. He has been grade accelerated. He skipped the 2nd grade. So like I said, he's currently in 5th grade and he's 10. Next year, he will be going to Covington Latin School. It's a school for gifted and highly intelligent children here locally. It's actually over the river in Kentucky, just right across the bridge. And there he will be entering into the 8th grade. So he will be a total of 3 years accelerated. So where he should be going into the 5th grade this next school year, he will be going into the 8th grade. Very excited for him, very happy for him. I think it is a good fit for him. He went and shadowed and basically came home and said, "Mom, I found my people." I think he referred to them as the Geek Squad. So I think he's going to do okay there. But being a mom to a child with that high of an IQ, it is great, it's rewarding, it's wonderful. But there's also a lot of struggles that go into raising a child such as Carson, with his intelligence and everything. So a lot of times I get asked, did I notice something different about him? When did I realize that maybe he wasn't quite like every other child his age? And the answer to that question is almost immediately. So he was born a little premature. I think about almost 37 weeks when he was delivered, but he got to come home with me. Didn't have to stay in NICU or anything. He did very well. From basically his first day of life on, there's always been something about him that we just couldn't put our fingers on. Initially, he was holding his head up right after he was born. You could watch him and watch his eyes, and he would trace the room, look at objects, really focus on things that a normal newborn does not generally do. Just very, very focused and very, very aware of his surroundings. Like I said, and as well as being able to hold his head up. So that's, something that normally a child can't do when they are born. Some of the other things that I noticed about Carson when he was little, he was crawling, I would say probably about 5 months, and walking pretty close to 7 months. He was, taking his first steps and being able to walk a little bit. He's always been a talker as far back as I can remember. He was putting sentences together at one, knew, all of his body parts, knew all of his colors, could count. I mean, he's just naturally been kind of on top of everything. So Carson started school at the age of 3. He did like a few months at a YMCA preschool just to get him ready. And then he started attending a local private school for pre-3, so when he was 3 to 4. His first year was pretty uneventful. They did notice some interesting things about him that first year there, not necessarily intellectual things, but things like he had trouble using scissors, and he was, had a lot of sensory problems with loud noises. So the first year wasn't really all about intelligence. It was just about kind of the fine motor skills and things that maybe he didn't quite have that the other kids did have. But then we went on to pre-4, so this was 4-5, and he had a fantastic teacher. From day one, she was in communication with me about how intelligent he was, how well he could read. He was basically flying through her curriculum, and she went to the kindergarten, first, second, and third grade teachers consecutively to get him more work to do. By the time he was halfway through pre-4, he had finished all the sight words through 3rd grade. He's always been a good reader, always been very good at problem solving and critical thinking. So that's kind of how that year went. It even went so far as they had a day where the grandparents or parents came into the school, and he wanted to read one of the books they were going to read out loud. He wanted to be the one to read it. So the teacher had told him, "You've never read this book before, you're not familiar with it." He was totally okay with it. Not only did he read it, but he read it flawlessly. So always been a good reader. Very, very thankful for that teacher. She is a godsend. I'm sure if she's watching this, she knows exactly who she is. I cannot thank her enough for all that she did for Carson and kind of directing us down the path to figure out, you know, what was different about him. You know, as a mom, you always know your kid's smart, they're wonderful, they do everything great, but for somebody on the outside to tell you how great they are, and how smart they are, it really is something that helped kind of point us in the right direction. So after preschool, we went on to kindergarten, same school. Kindergarten was rough. They had a sub at the beginning of the year, which for a fun fact, she was one of the first grade teachers when I attended that school. So I did know her, and she remembered who I was. His teacher was out on maternity leave. She ended up coming back, so he got a brand new teacher. And it was just typical kindergarten. Nothing exciting, no big talks about how his intelligence or anything. It was just kind of a normal year. And he had been sick towards the end of the school year, missed a lot of school. So we really didn't pursue anything at that time, just because we had a lot of other stuff going on. So then first grade rolled around. He was finally healthy after spending a little bit of a summer in the hospital. And we found a psychologist. She's been an absolute godsend, and we paid to have her test his IQ. Little did we know what it would mean when we kind of got finished, and how smart he really was. So in the first grade, we had him tested, and she called me about 2 weeks after the test to go over his results. And she just kept saying that he is highly gifted, profoundly gifted, that he was very special. It really didn't sink in until we sat down and met with her in our office, and she kind of broke down the statistics for us, his IQ versus the rest of the population. Not to mention the fact that we were told that because he was so young when they IQ test him, that he maxed out on a lot of the areas of the test, so he wasn't able to completely finish all parts. So even though his IQ was still in the profoundly gifted range, he most likely was even higher, due to the fact that he had maxed out on some of the questions. So he couldn't go any further. His IQ wouldn't go up any higher. But to sum it all up, most areas he scored in the 99th percentile, 99.9 percentile. So you're talking the top 0.1% of the population on this IQ test. So that was kind of an eye-opener. We kind of find out, you know, we knew there was something, but the testing did show us that there is something different about the way his brain works.
When you mix cornstarch and water together, it makes a non-Newtonian